Hello everyone, it's me. I know you're all excited. It is time for Games Awards for 2024. Essentially speaking, this is a award show for all the stuff that I've watched that came out this year, I've played that came out this year, I've wanted to buy that came out this year in regards to Legos. So, yeah, let's get into it. So there are two rules within regards to how the awards get given out. The first rule, rule number one, is it has to have released during December of last year to November of this year. Now, I know that sounds a little weird, but there's two reasons for this. One, kind of unfair to be giving awards to a game that released, say, 5 years ago when I'm playing it now. Just completely unfair to all the stuff that came out this year. But also, from what I have seen, December releases generally don't tend to be dictated for awards because it's just far too late in the year. And I don't tend to stream new stuff late in the year anyway, just simply because I don't have the time, because I take the last couple of weeks off to release videos like this. But the second rule is I had to have played it on stream if it's a game, watched it for media. Yes, media is part of this. Or I've had to have the urge to buy it if it's a Lego. Let me explain with that last one. There are Legos that are just really tall, or they're really wide, and I don't have room in my house. But I still want them. So that's kind of the reasoning there. So yeah, those are the rules. So now let's get into what awards there are. So when it comes down to awards, there are 4 different groups of awards. There's the Game Awards, the Miscellaneous Awards, the Not a Game Awards, and then something called the GOAT Odie. We'll get to that in a minute. So the first one I want to talk about is the Game Awards. So these get classified as the Indie Game of the Year, which is one of the best indie titles that I played this year. There's the Non-Indie Game of the Year, one of the strongest non-indie titles. So maybe your AAA or your AA get classified as this. And then both of those get kind of beaten out by the Game of the Year, which was one of the best games to release this year, at least in my honest opinion. Then there's the Miscellaneous Awards. Miscellaneous Awards do not categorize into the GOAT Odie when I get to that, just for context right now. And it's just miscellaneous stuff. So you have Soundtrack of the Year, which is just a game with a really good bopping soundtrack. You have the Port of the Year, so a game that has been ported to something else. So maybe it got ported from a console from 20 years ago to a console that released now, or maybe it just got a PC port, things like that. There's the Weird of the Year. I know, it's not a mean weird either. It's a good weird. It's just it's weird, but it's fun, but it's weird, but it's fun. That kind of thing. Then there's the Update and DLC of the Year, which last year was 2 different awards. This year they are separated because I actually played the DLC this year and partook in updates. So essentially the Update of the Year is just an update to a game that made it a lot better or more interesting or something. And then DLC of the Year is, spend something, but it's really good. It's just a really good DLC, improves the game a lot. If it was an update, it'd be a fantastic update because instead of spending money, it'd be free. And then there is Announcement of the Year, which doesn't really function the way everything else does. It's just an announcement that was really good, that just deserves to be here for whatever reason. Then the Not a Game Awards is the Media of the Year, which could be films, anime, manga. It's something I watched or read, and I think it's fantastic. Then there's the Lego of the Year, which is a really cool Lego set that I either own or I don't own, that just go, that's really cool, I really want that. Then there's Not a Game of the Year, which essentially is the best not video game thing to come out this year. And then this all ends up being contested by the GOAT Odie, which for a video game show would just be your game of the year, but this is the greatest of all time of the year. It's just so good. You gotta play it, or you gotta watch it, or you gotta build it, or you gotta read it. It's just good. You gotta do it. So those are the awards. So now let's actually get into the winners. All right, so let's begin with the indie game of the year, which is Secrets of Grindia, or it's Grindia. I'm pretty sure it's Grindia. I don't know anymore. It was first played by me in 2013 as early access. I don't really count early access for anything at all, but it officially released earlier this year, and it's honestly really good. It's fantastic that I finally get to finish the game, that I get to quote unquote 100% the game, even though I kind of regret doing it, and technically I didn't because there was arcade mode, which I didn't do, but I was like, I am not good enough for arcade mode. But anyway, I'm actually really happy to have finished it. I think the story is a little silly, but pretty solid regardless. There's a lot of stuff that I thought was either dumb in a good way or just kind of silly, and it works. It's kind of parodying the idea of grindy action RPGs and JRPGs because it's in the name of the game. The whole thing is like, you are a collector. Your job is to just grind and collect stuff. That's it. That's the whole point of your character. And it works. You know, it's like, hey, here's a game that you just grind stuff out. I hit my microphone, but well, not my microphone, my headphone. I get excited about this game. It's fun. It's just really solid. I recommend playing it. I've got a playthrough out, so definitely take a look. I actually have 3. 2 are unfinished because the game wasn't done yet. Anyway, good indie game. I'm happy it came out. So for the non-indie game of the year, I have to kind of go with Mario and Luigi Brothership. It's really shocking to see an actual new Mario and Luigi title, especially after Alpha Dream's sad and depressing shutdown. It's honestly a really nice story, all about connections and bonds, and the people are wall sockets for their faces, and they have plug attachments, and you get the idea. It's like, it's silly, but that's what the whole game's about, and it works really well because Mario and Luigi have this nice bond with how they act together. You have kind of the modification of bro actions compared to prior games where, you know, Mario and Luigi are tag teaming on their jump and hammer attacks, which is really nice. You have all this really silly implementations with like Luigi because for some reason they still want to make Luigi weaker. So they're like, hey, Luigi's just silly, and it's fun. It's a solid romp. It's not the best of the Mario and Luigi titles. I do think the game is a little bit easy. I only really died on stuff that insta kills you because I'm bad, if that really says anything. I was close to dying on one fight, but yeah, it's a good game. It's not fantastic. I wouldn't say breaks the box, shall we say, but it's fun, and I do recommend it if anyone was ever going to ask. Now, Game of the Year has to go to The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I really like a lot of the stuff about this game. I think the ecosystem is interesting, even though it's a little bit flawed within regards to you really need specific echoes to start really having the game feel a bit tolerable. You have the ability to play as Zelda, which is really neat. The story is kind of fun. It's nice to see the rough concept of the Link to the Past map again as well. I always like that Link to the Past map. There are optimization issues. I had problems within like the first couple of minutes of play, which I thought was really awkward because it's like, oh, I heard about it that morning, and then it's like, here it is in the first 5 minutes. It sucks. But honestly, still really solid despite those optimization issues. They don't cripple a lot, in my honest opinion. And I definitely think that this is a fun, solid title. It's got a lot of fun exploration bits. It is puzzly while also being interesting. It's a really fun game. Try it out. Now we're in the miscellaneous awards, and we got to go with Soundtrack of the Year, which goes to Bakaru. Bakaru is honestly really fun. It came out in, I believe, late August, and the soundtrack is fantastic. It's boppin'. It's bop-a-loppin'. You'll be like, time for the vibes. It's just really solid. The only issue is that it's small, and I think that's the only thing that really sucks about Bakaru. It's a great soundtrack, but it's small. A lot of tracks get reused a lot, and it kind of sucks. But the songs are really good. They generally match the areas that they're used for very well. There's a couple that I went, I don't know about that, but the music's good. It just doesn't feel like it fits the area type thing. But honestly, if you haven't already, try out Bakaru. I believe there is a demo out on the Switch, and just take a listen to the soundtrack, and you'll understand what I mean by, yeah, it's a pretty good soundtrack. Alright, so the next award is for the Port of the Year, which very easily goes to Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. If anybody said, oh, he's clearly going to pick something else, you silly, get out of here. I love The Thousand Year Door, even with its problems. The port is not fantastic, but it's more towards, I'm happy that Nintendo finally acknowledged it after 2 decades, roughly, but also it's playable on modern systems without people having to hunt down a bunch of old hardware. I am so happy modern audiences get a chance to play this game. And even with the issues that I have with it, there's a lot of stuff that was implemented that is pretty nice to have for what it is. It's a lot of 50-50. I talk about it, or I will be talking about it. I don't know when this will be uploaded order-wise, but I talk about it in my stream review this year, that it was a lot of, this is cool, but statements. So it's a great port. It's a really solid port. I just wish that they didn't make it feel worse in spots. But yeah, good video game. Like one of my favorites of all time. Please play it. It's very, very good. Okay, so Weird of the Year is really simple as well. It very much goes to Rusty's retirement, which I don't know if you can really describe it as a game the way you can with, say, other idling games like Cookie Clicker, because with Cookie Clicker, it kind of covers up the whole screen if you really wanted to. Meanwhile, Rusty is a toolbar on the bottom of your screen or on the side of your screen, and that's generally it. It's a game to get like alt-tabbed and so on and so forth. It's just, so you play it for about 3 minutes, and then you kind of like chill out for 30 minutes, and then you look back and go, oh hey, my stuff grew. That's just how Rusty's retirement is. I know there's been games like that, but this one's sort of different because it feels different, honestly speaking. I couldn't even like record it or stream it properly. I had to like put a game in the background because of how the game functions. Like, it's just a weird game, but it's fun. It's mellow, it's comfy. It's like, oh, you're watching a YouTube video and it's like, all right, I gotta grow my crops. And it's just fun. Okay, so Update of the Year had a lot of options. Okay, one game alone essentially had 5. Another game had like 2 or 3. Like, there was just a lot of updates for games this year that were really impacting. But I think the biggest one is the Crownfall as a whole for Dota 2, which is technically 4 updates, but 2 of them get associated with other updates, and I kind of want to keep them separated because I feel like it's fair. But Crownfall is fantastic. It really is. It's a really nice lore dump with a lot of comedic moments. It gave a bunch of lore to a hero who, in my honest opinion, is one of my favorites, like story-wise and conceptually, which is Vengeful Spirit. And obviously, she gets her lore connected with Skywrath Mage because of how they're connected. And it's great that we get Arcanas for both of them. It's great that This story kind of goes all over the place and implements characters from Artifact, like Sorla Khan, while also implementing some really nice, like, lore tinges of, we were on the fence about knowing, and it's like, now that we know, it's fantastic. There's just a lot of nice stuff to talk about regarding Crownfall, even though I'm probably going to ever so slightly trash talk it next year because of how it affected me and my friend Llama mentally, to minor extents, in regards to the game that is Dota 2, even though Dota 2 is just a game that does that to begin with. But yeah, I just like Crownfall. I have problems with it, but that is the case with a lot of things. Crownfall is just really cool lore-wise, and they did a good job with it, but I'm going to dictate more on that next year. So, yeah. So next up is DLC of the year, which I only played one. It was Side Order. It's silly, but I really got to give Side Order a lot of credit. Side Order is really fun. A roguelike game mode for Splatoon 3 with a bunch of different weapon types, like practically every single one, even though some of the bases I wish were different. For example, I wish instead of the Luna Blaster we had the regular blaster, but it's fine. It's just a lot of fun. I like the story behind it, how you essentially have like two distinct endings, one with getting your first clear and then getting a clear with everything. The challenges are kind of interesting as well, such as the Octo Shot challenge, which was a little difficult, but I did it. I'm cool. Hooray. I honestly hope that the next DLC, if anything, for Splatoon, if we ever get, a Splatoon 4, which I have no idea. I have no idea at all. I have to wait, like, probably a couple years to find out. But I hope that the next DLC that they do is interesting and just adds to the Splatoon experience. Vimo, Woomy, Umi, blah, blah, blah. So, announcement of the year. Originally, I was going to do the June 18 Nintendo Direct, but that's not really a game or any specific thing. It's like a bunch of things, and I figured that it was kind of unfair, especially because two of the things that were in that Direct I have played this year. So I dictated that it is not fair to do the Direct. That said, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I had to look over here to remember the name, but I can't believe they're finally putting out. Just for context, it was originally announced at E3 2017. It took 7 years for them to, give us anything footage-wise. I know that the game got reset, I believe, in 2019 or 2020, very early on in the year. Nintendo put out a statement that said, we are resetting development and giving it back to Retro Studios, I believe is the name of the company. But it's out. Or it's not even out. It's like, here's footage. It's coming next year. Like, you cannot imagine how happy I was for a friend of mine who's super heavy into Metroid. I actually have a couple of friends that are super heavy into Metroid. I myself now have to go, I gotta play Primes 1, 2, and 3 because I haven't played them yet. It's like, oh my god, finally. They're finally putting it out. It only took them 8 years since the first announcement for us to finally be able to buy and play the game. But yes, we're getting it. Finally. I'm so happy for my friends, and I'm hoping it's good. I'm thinking it's going to be on the Switch too, which is why they said 2025 and not like an exact date. But I have no idea. Time will tell. I'm happy. Good job, Nintendo. You did something nice for Metroid fans. Outside of Dread, but, that was separate. Anyway, okay, so the Not a Game Awards. Booyah, not video games. Media of the Year is Deadpool and Wolverine. It's a pretty good film, honestly speaking. I don't think it's the best film to have come out this year because obviously it is the not a game. It's not the not a game of the year. That's what I was going to say. It's the media of the year, which is lower. But anyway, um, honestly, it was really good. I think it's a perfect send off to Fox films such as the X-Men films and obviously the Wolverine films and so on and so forth, which is what it is overall. It's like, hey, look at all these beautiful memories. The credits were really nice because of that, because it had like behind the scenes footage for stuff like X-Men films, for Deadpool films, for the Wolverine films. It was just a nice send off for what was the I guess you could say Fox cinematic universe, even though it wasn't a cinematic universe at all because that only started with Marvel. But you get the idea. Just a really nice send off, nice film. I don't think it was the strongest one though. Okay, so Lego of the Year, I kind of had a bit of a hard debate about of the actual award winner or essentially the Eiffel Tower, but I went the Not a Game of the Year is really good, and so is this. So the Lego of the Year is the D&D set because it's amazing. You get a dragon, you get a beholder, you get a gelatinous cube, you get a really cool looking tower, you get all these nice little minifigures. There's other stuff in there that I cannot remember the names of right now because I can't. I I did actually buy it. I to this day have like this little tilt issue with the set. Funnily enough, I'll dictate a little story in here just to pad out this video and piss everybody off. So I found out that there was like a bonus set that you would get when you buy it on the Lego site, which was a little mimic, uh, like Lego set, which I thought was really neat. It sold out, and I was upset about it. But I said it's fine, I can wait. Months later, they're like, "Yo, check it out. You can get the Mimic set." I was like, cool. And then months pass after I buy it, and months pass, and months pass, and the shipping company canceled my order. I'm like, cool, fine. I guess I'm not allowed to have the Mimic set. So I bought it again. Now it's in my house. Gonna collect some dust because I got so many to build, which is part of why I dictate that the Legos of the years are just basically sets that I either own or do not, and go, that's really interesting. So now you know that I have a problem. And we're going to move on because we don't need to talk about this anymore now, do we? Alright, so the winner of the Not a Game of the Year award goes to Furiosa, which is basically a prequel of sorts to Mad Max Fury Road, which are basically a bunch of weird films that take place in a sort of post-apocalyptic-ish Australia. Furiosa is, honest to God, really good. I trying to explain it is a bit difficult because obviously it's been months since I've seen it. I saw Deadpool and Wolverine afterwards, which makes sense because it came out after. Anyway, it's really solid for what it is, which kind of expands the lore of Mad Max in a solid way. Of instead of it being all about Max, it's like this kind of secondary character that had a lot of impact in the film. You have just a really nice solid casting, in my honest opinion. You have Chris Hemsworth being a massive prick, which kind of works, honestly. Um, it's just a really solid film. It's so hard to describe it. It really is just, it works really well for the film that it is. Like, I think it's Anna Taylor-Joy. Did I say that right? I hope to God I said that right. I'm going to look it up right now. Yeah. Oh, it's Anya. I'm a piece of scum. Anya Taylor-Joy doesn't look like Anya Taylor-Joy. I don't think. Like, maybe a bit, but you can barely tell, I think. Okay, like, in comparison to the original Furiosa, it's like the eyes are a smidge bigger, and maybe the nose is a little lower, but it works really well. It doesn't feel like her at all either. based on what little I have seen of her film wise. It just works. It really does. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend watching trailers. I would recommend watching it, period. I just think it's a really good film, and it's really hard to explain for me outside of I think it's really good. I don't know what that says about me as a film critic, but I just like it. It's really good. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know how else to explain it. All right. The GOAT Odie, the greatest thing to come out this year. It's Astrobot. Astrobot is really good. Okay. It's cute. It's adorable. The power ups are really fun to use. The levels don't feel samey. The special levels, the ones that you know what I'm talking about, those are great. The bosses are really solid as well, outside of like the frog, or no, it was chameleon that I failed severely at. We don't talk about that one. But the bosses are really solid. The mechanics are really fun. I'm a huge fan of the boxing gloves, which I think are supposed to be like frogs or geckos. That one's really fun to use. The mouse one's also really nice for the levels that kind of dictate around that mouse power up. It's just a really solid thing. I forgot about the sponge one. The sponge one's good too. The sponge is great. All the power ups are great, honestly speaking. And it's what I like about the game. It's Mario done by PlayStation, and I think the developers even talked about it too. And the fun bit with Astrobot as well, people complain about it, I think because it's like mascot platformer, or it's like, oh, it's Sony pandering. What did you expect? Like, if Mario wins, do you gonna complain about that? Like, because that's Nintendo pandering. Or it's like, oh, it's too much, I don't even know the right word. I guess like nostalgia goggles for like all the referencing that it does. Like, there's a Mario racing game. There's multiple Mario sport games. There's a game where Nintendo mascots and other associated characters just beat the crap out of each other. Like, you can play as Kirby and beat the crap out of Sephiroth if you were good enough. I don't know how OP Sephiroth is in comparison to Kirby. But still, if you were a good enough player, you could do that and just have a chuckle. Okay? Or you could play as Minecraft Steve and piss off everybody, because apparently he's stupidly broken, but maybe he got fixed. I don't know. But that's just what Mario is. And Mario is, well, not Mario, but Astrobot is essentially the Mario for PlayStation. Like, it's kind of set in stone now. I'm hoping for a really fun new Astrobot title within the next couple of years. I'm hoping for something really good. Like, I'm hoping for an Astrobot 2. That's really what I'm hoping for. I will dictate this. There was a lot of really good games this year, and I know people are upset that none of those really good games could beat, Sony's Mario, or as I like to call it specifically, Sony's Mario Odyssey. I understand that, but at the same time, for $60, it's a really good platformer. It has a lot of good mechanics around it. The levels don't feel horrendously samey, generally speaking. It's just a really good, solid video game that I know is considered a controversial, game of the year winner type thing. But there's a reason. It works. It's fun. Moving on. All right, that is it for the awards. Honestly speaking, I have no idea if I'm going to be able to do it to this extent for 2025, just because of personal reasons. But I can state this much. 2024 was a really good year for video games. 2025 is also going to be a really good year for video games. So hopefully the awards can hypothetically be longer. I don't think they will. I have no idea. But hopefully I can really kind of put out a lot of stuff of, this is really good, you should play it. It deserves an award because it's just a fun game, or a fun film, or a really cool Lego set. and so on and so forth. But with all that said and done, I will see you hopefully next year with another one. Bye bye.